Welcome back to Stick Figure Chat. We're here to help all of you design pros navigate the tile world. Today we're tackling something super important, finding a really good tile installer.
It's make or break, you know?
Totally. I mean, imagine this. You spend forever on a tile design, pick out the perfect materials.
Right.
Then you hand it off to someone who doesn't get it, doesn't get
Yeah.
tile.
It's like watching someone drop a beautiful cake on the floor.
The worst.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what to look for in an installer, especially for us designers, like what needs to be in our project specs.
Well, first off, experience. Don't be shy about that. Put a minimum number of years of experience in your project specs.
Like how many years are we talking?
At least 5. It takes time to master this.
5 years. Okay, I wouldn't have thought of that. But yeah, you don't want someone learning on the job.
Exactly. And tile's always changing. New materials and techniques, they have to keep learning.
So how do we know they're up to date? We can't send them back to school?
You can require proof of training, though, from good organizations.
Like what?
The NTCA, the National Tile Contractors Association, or training straight from the manufacturers.
Right, so they know the latest standards.
Yeah.
And best practices. Protects us and the client. What else should we be looking at when we're checking out installers?
A portfolio. They need a good portfolio. We have to see what they've done.
So not just some quick pics of their aunt's backsplash.
No, definitely not. We need to see real projects and variety. I mean,
Yeah, Zelda Blasi had a good point about that. Like with online portfolios, are they real photos or just some generic tile pictures?
good point. It's also a good idea to talk to past clients, Get references.
It's like checking reviews online. You want to hear what real people think.
Uh,
Okay, so we've got experience, training, a good portfolio. What about red flags? What should we be running away from?
let's talk about that in part 2.
All right, so red flags, those warning signs that make us designers nervous.
Yeah, like a really low bid. That can be tempting.
You
But-
get what you pay for, right?
Exactly. Good tile work takes time, expertise, you need the right materials.
And both Phil Green and Zelda Blasi talked about that. If a bid seems too good to be true.
Probably is. It could mean they're cutting corners. Or they're just not that experienced.
And speaking of experience, what about those tile placers? Phil Green mentioned them.
Oh yeah, those guys. They can put down tile, maybe.
But they don't really understand it.
Right.
It's like the difference between someone painting a wall and a real artist.
Exactly. We need installers who can problem solve, who know about substrates, waterproofing, setting techniques, all of that.
So that experience and training is super important.
Absolutely. And don't forget contracts.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Zelda Blasi had a story about that. Contractors who want cash up front or no contract.
A contract protects everyone
Right. The designer, the installer.
and the client. It should lay everything out. The work, the payments, the timeline, no surprises.
Transparency from the start.
Which brings us to communication. How important is that during a project?
It's everything. We need installers who answer our questions, who tell us what's going on.
Right. No ghosting.
Exactly. And they need to explain things clearly. Keep us in the loop.
Zelda Blasi mentioned a steam shower that leaked.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the installer didn't follow the right steps. It was a mess. Costly, too.
See, that's why we need someone good. Someone who gets it. Someone who can do it right.
Who respects us as designers
Mm-hmm.
and works with us,
Mm-hmm.
not against us. So we've got experience, training, portfolios, those red flags, communication. What else should we consider? When we're looking at installers, okay, a couple more things before we wrap up. What about like professional organizations? Do those matter?
They do. Being a member of the NTCA, that shows they're serious about
Yeah.
standards and education. They want to stay up to date.
Right, makes sense. What about certifications? Are there any we should be looking for?
Definitely. The CTI, Certified Tile Installer, that's a good one. From the Ceramic Tile Education Foundation.
Okay.
It means they've met the standards. They know what they're doing. You can definitely put that in your specs.
This is so helpful for us designers, We can ask about experience, training, certifications, even those organizations.
It gives you more to talk about with potential installers, too. Ask those questions. A good installer will want to answer them.
Yeah. If they get all weird about it, that's a bad sign. Okay, so let's say we found someone great, experience, training, portfolio, good communication. But how do we explain all this to the client? They're probably thinking about budget.
It's all about education. Tell them why it matters, why a good installer is worth the investment.
Because it'll last longer, right?
Exactly. A good tile job looks better and DLS.
Like the foundation of a house. You can't skimp on that.
Exactly. You're putting so much into the design, you want to make sure it's done right.
So, to wrap things up, If you're a designer working with tile, find a qualified installer. It's worth it.
Don't be afraid to ask the tough questions. Check those portfolios and advocate for what you need.
And if you need help, you know where to find us.
Tilebar.com. We're here to help with all things tile.
Our field team can answer your questions, give you some guidance. Until next time on Stick Figure Chat, happy tiling, everyone.